Chapter 3, Social Science, Class 6, Landforms and Life. We are starting with a quote stated in Atharva Veda, Bhumi Sutta, Hymn to the Earth. Free from the burden of human beings, may the earth, with many heights, slopes, and great plains, bearing plants endowed with varied powers, spread out for us and show us her riches. The earth is my mother, and I am her child. So, the important to note from this is free from the burden of human heights, earth shows us her riches. That means if we will not change the rhythm of nature, then it will show or it will produce in its optimum levels, and earth is our mother and we are her children. So it is our responsibility to take proper care of our mother, that is earth. So in this chapter, we'll be dealing with two questions. That is, what are the major types of landforms? And first of all, what is a landform and their significance to life and culture? And what are the challenges and opportunities of life associated with each landform? Introduction. Humans, like most mammals, live on land. Land, you may have noticed, have many forms and features. Its appearance changes a lot from one region to another. Suppose you are traveling by road from a region known as Chota Nagpur in Jharkhand and reach Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh, and you go to Almora in Uttarakhand. On the way, you'll see many different landscapes. In fact, you'll encounter 3 major landscapes. So here, when you go on a road trip, you will not always find the land to be same in complete road travel. There'll be different kinds, that is high, low, slopes, fields, lakes, and many more things. So we have to understand what is a landform. So a landform is a physical feature on the surface of planet Earth. So landforms will take shape over millions of years. It is not that they'll form in one single day. They take millions of years to take a shape and have significant connection with the environment and life. They can be broadly classified into mountains, plateaus, and plains. So landforms are 3, that is mountains, plateaus, and plains. These landforms have different climates and are home to a variety of flora and fauna. So each one will have a particular climate, and according to the climate, there will be different animals and plants in that area. Humans have adapted to all the landforms, but the number of people living on different kinds of landforms will vary. So humans can stay in all these kinds of landforms, but there will be more people living on the plains than on mountains and plateaus. It is obvious that whichever is comfortable to many people, people start living in that particular area. So it is that most of the people will live in plains, but there are also people living in mountains and plateaus. So now we'll study about mountains. So mountains are the landforms that are very much higher than the surrounding landscape. So when a landscape is like this, whatever is higher, that is called as the mountain. And they can be recognized by a broad base, steep slopes, and a narrow summit. So the features of the mountain are a broad base, steep slopes, and narrow summit. Depending on their height, some mountains are covered with snow. At lower altitudes, the snow melts every summer and becomes water that feeds the rivers. At higher altitude, the snow may never melt, leaving the mountain permanently snow-capped. So when the mountains are present in higher altitudes, that is altitude in the sense the height from the land. So if they are at the top, then less chances are there for the snow to melt, because there the temperature will be very less. But if they are at the lower altitudes, then the snow will melt and that will form the rivers. So this is an actual picture of the landforms. So this represents all the 3 landforms, that is the mountain, plateau, and a plain. These are the mountains, and from here we can see the river, and the plateau is there on the left, and we can see the plains at the foreground with the river emerging from the mountains. And the other highlands with lower height, less steep slopes and rounded tops are called the hills. So there is a difference between mountains and hills. So mountains are more higher and more steep, and they are narrow summit and broad base, while those with lower height, less steep slopes and rounded tops are called the hills. What is snow? Unless you live in Himalayan region such as Kashmir, Ladakh or Himachal Pradesh, you may never have seen snow. In the rest of India, most precipitation is in the form of rain and hail. But at higher altitudes, if it is cold enough, snow will form, covering the landscape in a soft and beautiful white blanket. Snow and hailstones are nothing but precipitation of water in a solid state. So what is precipitation? So the water from the atmosphere reaching the ground in any form, that is rain, snow and hail, are the most common forms of precipitation. So basically, the sun will absorb water from the oceans and will condense and then fall to the ground, which is called the precipitation. So precipitation can happen either in rain or in hail or in snow. So mostly in most parts of India, rain and hail will be seen, but snow can only be seen in higher altitudes because there the climate will be very cool. It is important to note that Mount Everest, which is between the Tibet, which is China and Nepal, and Kanchenjunga, which is in between Nepal and the Indian state of Sikkim, are the two highest peaks of Himalayan region. And the Mount Aconcagua in South America is the highest peak of the Andes. And Mount Kilimanjaro in the Eastern Africa is an isolated mountain that is not a part of any range. And Mount Bal in Western Europe is the highest mountain of the Alps. Anamudi, which is in Kerala, is also known as Anai Peak, is the highest mountain in South India. It is important to remember all these peaks, which are actually provided properly in your short notes provided at the end of this video. Mountains which are tall and have sharp are, like the Himalayas, are relatively younger, which means they were formed recently in the Earth's history. But that is still millions of years ago. And those which are shorter and more rounded mountains like the Aravalli range are much older and have been rounded by erosion. So sometimes, as with the Himalayas, the upliftment as well as erosion continue until this day. So we can understand what is a younger mountain and which is older mountain depending on how they look, whether they are tall or there are sharp peaks or they are shorter and more rounded. Mountain slopes are often covered with a type of forest which is called the montane forest, and where the conifer trees such as pines, firs, spruce and deodar are most commonly found. So these conifer trees grow tall and are cone-shaped, and they have pointed leaves. At higher altitudes, the trees give way to grasses, mosses and lichen. Here are the two verses from the long poem by Kalidasa, who lived at least 1500 years ago and is often considered the greatest poet of ancient India. The poem Kumara Sambhava begins with an invocation to the Himalayas. In the north rises Himalaya, the land of mountains like a living god, who measures the earth and stretches from the western to the eastern oceans. From it is the wind comes down, carrying spray from the Ganga, shaking the deodar trees, opening the peacock's tail feathers, and cooling the mountain people after they hunt deer. What are the western to the eastern oceans? Which is stated in this particular verse. The western to eastern oceans refers to the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, and the Lord of Mountains is the Himalayas, symbolizing their grandeur and significance in Indian culture. Why is Ganga mentioned? So here we can see that mountain will feed the rivers. So that is why Ganga is mentioned in this verse. Deep forest, flowering rivers, lakes, grasslands, and caves in the mountains are home to diverse fauna. So the fauna will include the following animals. Ganga is the Indian name of the largest river originating in the Himalayas. In English, Ganges is also used. Nearly 2,500 km long, and this river has numerous tributaries. That is, other rivers joining it. Some of them are the Yamuna, Ghagra, also originate in the Himalayas. Others, like the Sun, originate from the Vindhya range to the south of Ganga plain. Life in the mountains. Mountain is usually rugged or roughed and has steep slopes. This means regular farming can only be practiced in some valleys. Valley is a place in between two mountains. The cultivation is practiced in the form of terrace farming, also called the step farming. And in many mountainous regions of the world, herding is a preferred occupation over agriculture. And the tourism is often important source of income for people living in the mountains. So the crisp mountain air and scenic beauty attract many people. And some include the skiing, hiking, mountaineering and paragliding. For many centuries, people have also traveled to their uplands for pilgrimages to holy sites. But an excessive inflow of visitors can also put the fragile mountain environment under great pressure. It is often difficult to find the right balance. But Chandri Pal started climbing the mountains from a very young age and led many women climbing expeditions. She was the first Indian woman to climb the Mount Everest in the year 1984 and was awarded the Padma Shri in the same year and Padma Bhushan in 2019. Arunimha Sinha lost a leg in an accident when she was 22, which by Chandri Pal's encouragement and training, she managed to climb the Mount Everest in year 2013 and went on to climb the highest peak of every continent, including Mount Vinson in Antarctica. She was awarded the Padma Shri in 2015. With this, we have completed the mountain part. Tomorrow, we'll complete the other landforms.